Hey, everybody. I am Rebecca Giannini, and this is my group. If you are here, welcome. I'm so glad you found us. I'm a parenting and relationship coach, and this group is all about creating healthier relationships and learning to heal our wounds so that we stop the generational patterns and the dysfunctional patterns that keep showing up in our relationships. So, if you want to do any of those things, if you want to create the family life of your dreams, please stick around, put your questions and comments in the chat, either here on Zoom or in the Facebook group, and we will monitor those and make sure that you get those questions answered. I'll also be mentioning some resources on this live, and I mentioned the different resources on pretty much every live. So if you're interested in the resources I mentioned, just put the names of the resources that we mention and we'll make sure that we get those to you. I go live every single Monday at Pacific Standard, 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I think that's all the stuff I need to mention. Okay. So tonight we're talking about apologies. We're talking about how specifically with children, but this often happens with adults as well. We often were not taught how to apologize or make amends in a meaningful way. And so oftentimes people sweep things under the rug and just try and move on. And kids do this. And I want to talk about a couple of different ways that people say sorry that are just not effective. So oftentimes you'll see a child, who is fighting with their brother or sister or fighting with a friend at a play date or something, and they will be forced to say sorry for something that they did, and it'll be really quick and it will be, insincere, and they'll say something like sorry, and they just, what they're really saying is, get me out of here, this is really uncomfortable and I want this to be over. So they've learned that saying sorry does that, and then they expect that interaction to be over. So this leaves no room for the person who was harmed to share their story or to ask for something different to be done going forward, or for them to get a meaningful amends made to them. And so it leaves that person feeling bad. And it also leaves the person who's apologizing feeling bad, because they instinctively know that it's not better, it's not fixed. And so there's this tension in the air, and that's a problem for both, because we don't learn to make meaningful amends with that other person, and that ends up harming the relationship. So the other thing that will happen is that sorry can be used as a weapon. So for example, somebody might say sorry, and they'll say it in a way that is basically like, get off my back kind of thing. And so if somebody says sorry in that sort of way, where it's like an aggressive sorry, it's really not a sorry at all. And so this again can happen in child relationships, adult relationships. And it's really a way of kind of weaponizing the word sorry. And when we weaponize the word sorry, it leaves especially kids, but also adults, feeling confused, because they're hearing the word sorry, but they know that it doesn't mean sorry, but they don't have the language to say, you're apologizing, but the way that you're saying it is, the tone that you're saying it in tells me that you're not sorry, but that you want me to stop talking. Kids don't have that language. Most adults don't have that language. So it leaves both people feeling confused because it's just ineffective communication, and we don't want to do that. Another way that people say sorry is in a means to communicate that I don't want to listen to the harm that I've caused. Hearing the harm that I've caused is too painful for me, so I'm saying sorry so that it's over. And another common way that people say sorry is when they don't know what else to say. So when they actually do feel bad, but they don't know how to have a meaningful repair work conversation. So the other part here is that oftentimes empathy is an issue. So for young kids especially, it's really difficult to empathize with somebody else when they feel like they've been harmed. And so so if they responded to some sort of harm and they sorry, my mind is a little bit blank right now. So if the child who is needing to apologize also feels like they were slighted, they can sort of apologize in a way that lacks empathy, right? So they're struggling to see it from that other person's point of view. They only see the harm that was caused to them, and they can't get past that in order to see that the harm that they caused was greater, or the harm that they caused is the harm that needs to be focused on. So when we're talking about empathy, when we're trying to teach someone empathy, something that's really helpful is to talk about looking at the other person's face, looking at the other person's body language. So let's say, for example, you have two kids and someone, took a toy from the other child, and one of the child, in response, the other child pushed or hit or something like that. So taking a toy isn't okay, and pushing escalates it to the next level. So the second child might feel like, why should I apologize? They took my toy. I was just responding. But their response escalated the situation. So oftentimes that child is going to be in a position where they're going to be the one being asked to apologize, but they feel like they were slighted, so they're struggling with that. So one of the things that we want to do in a situation, especially if you're helping kids deal with a situation, would be to go to the child who was harmed and just start narrating what's going on. You got pushed. You're crying. Oh, that hurt. It hurts to be pushed. And we're not making any statements about the person who pushed, or we're not focusing our energy on the person who did the pushing. We are just noticing and bringing attention to the fact that harm was caused, and that is something sad. That's something that deserves care and deserves to be dealt with. We also don't want to rush through that. Oftentimes when we're trying to solve a situation, we're rushing through because it's uncomfortable to deal with negative feelings. And so because that's uncomfortable, we want to move through it as quickly as possible. But that also causes harm. So we don't want to do that. We want to slow ourselves down and really settle into that moment and focus on the harm that was caused, and give the person who was harmed the floor. We want to give them a chance to talk. And hopefully as they're talking, we can direct them to talking about what happened versus who the other person is. So we want to avoid saying things like, he pushed me, he's so mean. But we would try and help them to talk about the behavior. You got pushed. Yeah. And it hurt. You scraped your knee. You need an ice pack. Talking about what actually happened versus who the other person is, or what it means about the person who did the pushing. We want to focus. Ideally, you would have, both children together at, a safe enough distance, and you're looking ideally back and forth. And so when you are with the child who's been pushed, you can look back at the child who did the pushing. They got pushed. It hurts to be pushed. I see her face. She's crying. And we move back and forth between the two kids. And we're not talking about, you pushed her. Why did you push her? We're not focusing on our energy or aggression or anything toward the person who was causing the harm. We're focusing our energy on the place where the harm, where the impact was. Anyway, so I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but the point is that we want to focus on the person who had the most harm caused to them. Now, that's not to say that the person who, responded and in this example, had their toy taken away, doesn't get to tell their story. They do get to tell their story, but since they escalated it, it's the person who had more harm caused to them gets to go first. So we do want to come back to the place where that person also gets to share their story. The first child gets to share their story about how something was taken from them and how they were using that and what they could say. And ideally both people, when we're having a meaningful repair work conversation is that both people are going to take their turns in role of speaker, and both people are going to take their turns in role of listener. And then we're going to move through the repair work steps. In any meaningful relationship, we are going to have to do repair work on a regular basis. Repair work is just part of healthy relationships. We're going to need to talk about stuff. We're going to need to have uncomfortable conversations, and we're going to need to learn to hold space for the harm that we're causing to each other when we are doing that. So one of the things I would recommend, if any of this is ringing true for you, is to request our resources on repair work conversations, because there are a couple things that you want to do to make sure that you can make amends in a meaningful way. So put repair work in the comments, and I'll make sure that Christina gets you all of that information that we have on repair work, the videos, and I believe that we have some worksheets for that too. So as far as empathy goes, helping the child focus on, or the adult, whatever it is, helping the person focus on the harm that they caused without talking to them shamefully about their behavior is really important, because if we focus on the badness of what they've done, or the fact that it makes them a bad person, or the fact that it means that they were mean, or whatever it is, they are going to be in protection of self and their self-concept, instead of being able to focus outward on the harm that they caused. So it's really important when we're taking our turn in role of speaker, talking about the harm that somebody has caused us, that we're not, attacking character, that we're not sort of going for the jugular of that other person, because it means the conversation is just going to be less effective. So, yes. So the main thing I wanted to talk about was that the repair work resources are available to you. And as far as empathy goes, I think I might end up doing a series on empathy, because there's just too much to talk about when it comes to empathy to handle in a 15-minute live. So and the same thing with repair work and all of the other things that we talked about, even weaponizing sorry. I'm just briefly touching on this subject. So if you want some more information, please let us know and put your questions in the comments. Put your comments in the comments, and I will get back to them when I have a chance. The last thing I will say to you is be gentle to yourself on this journey. It's such difficult work that we're doing, and it takes a long time to shift patterns, and it's difficult to navigate these situations, whether you're navigating them with your children or with somebody else. So be gentle to yourself, even when you're making mistakes. We all make mistakes. Mistakes are how we learn, and so be gentle to yourself as you are working on navigating these things. Love it, Kathy. I'll make sure that we get you that. Please, since you're here on the Zoom with me, please make sure that you're connected on Facebook with Christina, because otherwise, if you're not connected on Messenger, she's not going to be able to get that to you. All right. Well, take care of yourselves, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.